every corner, every minute, every hour. Just like a councilman can't be everywhere and a councilwoman can't be everywhere. But we can do our best. Councilwoman Rivers mentions the 60-year-old man that was gunned down over on Grand Avenue. I believe the first thing I did was went to see Sadiq Ellamy, Mr. Ellamy. I went down there and I didn't say where are my colleagues. I didn't do that. My first response was to go and show my face and let them know that they were in my presence. In fact, I was the only council member at the ceremony that they had adjacent to where it had taken place. But I didn't say anything about who was here and who's not here, because you don't do that. Everyone was where they wanted to be on that day. And I spread myself thin. I don't need to prove anything to the people of Plainfield because they see me. So that's all I basically have to say, but I will strongly agree with Councilwoman Tolliver, and I do not agree with an investigation. I will not co-sign this. I want no parts of it. I think it's an insult to the men and women at the division, and beginning with their leader. If there are any problems in that department, we are grown-ups, they are grown-ups. They have a commander, a leader. I think they should be able to work things out amongst themselves. And if they can't do that, I don't believe that the council should get involved. I think that we should stay in our lane and do our job and let them do their job. If everyone would stay in their lane, we probably would win this race a lot faster. Thank you.
I just want to also make comments and then it's open. The floor is still open. I want to say that I'm very grateful to some of the speakers tonight, and I'm probably not going to list all of the ones I'm grateful to, but there were 3 people who came to the microphone. Mr. Norman Muhammad, the gentleman who's representing the national organization, and Mr. Jackson came to the microphone and made constructive comments. I know how much anguish and frustration people are feeling over this illness that we have in our community that's attracting young people into these gangs and attracting them into the drug trade, which is, and also encouraging them to use guns. I mean, it's an illness, and there is no one solution, but one thing is clear. If we react to our frustration and fear by turning on each other, by finger pointing, and I heard some of that tonight. It's not helpful. And I think as adults, we all have a responsibility to do everything we can to deal with our frustration in an adult, constructive way, as hard as that may be at times for all of us. I mean, I know that I get very frustrated listening to some of the speeches. That start out constructive, and sometimes the frustration leads to denigrating the mayor, who's not even here to defend himself. And believe me, maybe the mayor isn't doing every single thing that needs to be done, because no one person can. But there's nobody more committed to addressing this illness than the mayor, Mr. Mapp. I know that. So is he doing everything? Do we agree with everything that he says or does? No, we don't have to. We have to figure out a way to stop disagreeing and criticizing each other, but just accept that not everybody is going to do everything. I haven't been to any of the funerals, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I feel very badly for the families, but I think that I can do something that may not be going to the funerals. Maybe I will in the future if there are any, and I really hope there are not. But I think that my contribution can be something else, and I think I shouldn't be criticized for not being where you want me to be. I think as long as I do something, and I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things that I'm doing, I'm the head of a nonprofit organization in Union County. We are now in a partnership with the county to help, to provide much more direct assistance to people returning to Elizabeth and Plainfield in particular from prison, to provide counseling, job training, health care, helping people get linked up to the services they need and housing and all those things that they don't have when they come back. And that's just one piece of the puzzle, because a lot of this puzzle is created by poverty. So I think instead of calling for an investigation, and yes, it's definitely true, I've not agreed to put this on the agenda, but I cannot be criticized for squelching the discussion. There's been no issue this year that's been discussed more than this, particularly in the first half of the year. And we will have to have more discussions. But I think we all have to try to stop accusing each other of being political, because as soon as we get negative, yeah, it does become political. So I think we just have to accept each other and forgive each other if we're not going to do everything that we expect of each other, as long as we do something. And I have to commend the Anti-Violence Coalition. I think, what I heard tonight was an invitation to learn more about what they're doing, and I think I'm going to take you up on that. But I just think that's the kind of approach, because I didn't have somebody come up to the microphone and say, where will you storage? Because I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm not going to get involved with negativity. But if you're going to be positive, I want to join you. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So I think the leadership for this constructive approach has to come from the mayor and the council. So I just want to encourage my colleagues. I heard some really positive comments and I heard some finger pointing. We have to get past the finger pointing. And I do think the investigation, we all voted for it. I voted for it, and I have to say, it was an overreaction on my part. That's the way I see it. And I'm glad that we haven't followed through on it. Because I think even though everybody could maybe do more than they're doing, nobody's doing more than our police. And they're not just doing policing, they're doing mentoring, they're doing all kinds of things. I read in the newspapers, there's some really negative headlines about some of the police forces in our county, some of the other cities on the other side of the county. There's nothing negative to say about our police force. I mean, I wish they were getting headlines, and they were positive headlines, because they deserve them. So, no, I don't want to do an investigation. I don't want to spend money on it. If we're going to spend money, and I think the council could do certain things that nobody else can do. The council has some control over the purse strings. So we've already set our budget for this year. Maybe we can have some discussions about how we're spending our money this year. We can certainly talk about how we're going to spend our money in the future. And we should be talking about not hiring attorneys, but we should be talking about what kinds of job programs, what kinds of partnerships we want to do with the Board of Education, et cetera. There's so many things. That's the way our discussions should be going. That's what I hope for us as a council.
Okay,
I just want to just add very quickly, I know the hour is getting late and the Olympics is almost off. But, it is people's prerogative whether or not they want to go to funerals. Just because you go to a funeral does not mean you care. And a lot of people who don't go probably care the most. And some people just go to funerals just to be seen. I don't see how the whole department is going to be penalized for an investigation. I don't agree with the word investigation. I spoke with Reverend Gloria Taylor earlier as we discussed this. I said something needs to be done, but I don't like the word investigation. But I discussed that with her, so I'm not going to grandstand and say why I don't agree with it, but I thought a better word would be review. And we talked about that, but I do think that community review board or something like that is effective. A lot of communities have that, but I don't think that, and I think even, we talk about Mr. Riley doing a great job, and I don't think he would even, if there was an investigation, there's nothing I believe that the police department, has to hide. Everything's made public. We talk about even, I can't discuss what we talked about in executive session, but we even looked at the amount of police, what was the word, Mr. We said, police, not brutality, but complaints in reference to excessive force. I think the word was excessive force, that we even discussed that was minor compared to a lot of other municipalities. You know, but I do think a review is a better word than investigation. That's something that Reverend Glover and I, we talked about and we disagreed with, but we did have a good conversation about it.
Can I respond now?
We have one more person.
They all spoke.
We all spoke.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I want to speak. Oh,
Okay, we're not quite there yet.
all right. I want to clarify this whole situation about this ordinance, this resolution. It did not come from me alone, and I want the Corporation Council who gave advice for this. So this is not Gloria Taylor's whole piece. The notion, again, is that we have the legal responsibility as the council to address issues affecting our community and affecting the police department and the community. What this would do as a review, we do have issues. Let us not forget that we discussed those issues. Some have had to do with personnel, which we don't have to talk about. As I said, the 3 cases where we had to pay. So it is not just about the fact that we have to address taking the words out, okay? It has to do with your responsibility as legal, as a legislative body, to look at what's going on. We have had things brought to our attention. Now, if you choose to ignore them, fine. I had a problem with the president not even wanting to put it on the agenda. And I said, well, let's put it on and let us determine that we don't want to do it. But for you to refuse to do it. The accreditation process is not about the same thing as community policing. It's about the professional responsibilities. And when we asked the question to the consultant about his ability to deal with cultural competencies, he had no answer. He got very red in the face. And so in this community policing, professionalism should relate to the perceptions of the people that you're supposed to serve and your understanding of who they are. And so I don't apologize for saying that was not included in the consultant's approach. It was merely a professional approach. And number 2, I went after, we know where this came from. And that night when we all agreed to do it, and now we're hearing that you felt you were over whatever it was, I went to the Corporation Council and I asked him, well, what do we do? And so he put this together with some of the input that I had. He said we would have to get another investigator. And so we looked up all that information. We came up with this person. Now, it does not mean it has to be this person or another person. But the point is, we've got to move from the rhetoric to responsibility and action. And that's what this was attempting to do. It is not perfect, but we need to do something that's long range, that doesn't just address what we feel right now. And that's what we were attempting to do. And so, yes, some of the information may not be equitable right now because this was done way back in March, when we agreed as a council that we need to look into what was going on in the police department. And there were reasons for that. I didn't make it up. It came to people coming to the council on issues concerning what was going on. It wasn't me. So let's look at that. Then he put this together, and this is what it took us this long to get to put it up, even to talk about it. I find that really very frustrating, and that was not done, and that was purely because I guess the president didn't want to do it.
Can I just make 2 comments and then we can go home for the night?
No, I wanted to finish. She was supposed to explain this
Yeah,
process.
let me explain, if I could just explain why. When I was approached about drafting a resolution, it was my understanding that the council wanted to, or Councilman Taylor wanted to hire an attorney to assist. The council does not have the authority to hire an attorney unless you are exercising your rights under section 2.8A of the code, which gives you investigatory powers. Therefore, from a legal distinction, it cannot be a review. It must be an investigation if the council wishes to hire an attorney. That's why it was drafted the way it was drafted. So if the council if the council didn't want an attorney, you can call it anything you want. But if you want to expend city funds, particularly for an attorney, you have to do it by virtue of your investigatory powers under the code. And that's why it was drafted that way.
And the reason attorney is because we did not want to put you in the situation, because of your situation. I feel politically, you may or may not be.
No, I would be conflicted out, yeah, absolutely. I could not
So,
assist
what-
the council in investigating the administration.
So we did this at that beginning when we agreed to do this, and this is how it got to this point, okay? It was not in any way to do anything negative towards people, but we still have the issue. And it's up to this council to determine what they would like to do. Okay.
I'm just gonna add two things. Let's talk about the legal situations that Ms. Taylor's allegedly commenting on prior. A lot of this happened prior to me. I'm not gonna pass the buck, go back and forth, but it comes with supervisory accountability. My supervisors, including me, from the top or down, are held accountable to supervise, to do their job from the command staff and the level down, and that's exactly what they're doing. So a lot of this nonsense that went on in the prior administration, this one wants this councilman, or this one wants the mayor, or whoever, has stopped. The buck stops with me. Nobody goes across the street, and runs their mouth, and does this, and does all sorts of negative things, because we have to have a chain of command in the police division to run it effectively. That's how community policing starts, where chain of command has to follow certain policies, procedures, to develop certain things. Just hold on a minute. Certain policies and procedures to start developing things to adequately address the community. I can't have a rogue police officer that doesn't have the right reports, that doesn't know how to follow chain of command, interact with the public in a nasty or negative fashion. That has been done in the past. And guess what? They have been addressed accordingly, and that comes with policy procedures, which accreditations help us with. That's how we're starting to move forward on a better level in community policing. I know Ms. Taylor doesn't understand certain concepts.
That is not it, sir. I got my concept from the federal government. Excuse me, no, if he's incorrect, I'm gonna say it.
Okay,
Point of order.
Concepts, but boots on the ground, how we work and how we do our job, that's how it's done. Okay, and I understand that she wants some more community involvement, I agree with that, I have no problem doing that, and we will continue to do that. But just understand, that's part of the process, where it starts with accountability, not just officers running out and just talking to you. You have to have accountability to be able to develop programs and the process of my life.
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.